What's up, boys and girls? Happy Saturday. Welcome back to Saturday Garage. If you're not aware, Freiberger and Derek Bieri are putting on duct tape drags again this year. It's October 17th and 18th in Tucson. Now, I haven't been since what I think was the first duct tape drags, and I would like to go this year. So that just means that it's Duster Day. I don't know if this is really going to qualify as the $5,000 Battle of the Beaters, but it's fairly well beat. And it seems like it'd just be a good time to get down there. So that means a few things. I've got some work to do. I've got some work to do. I've got some work to do. Okay, here's a really quick nickel tour of this car. It's a 73 Duster that was on Hot Rod Garage. I now own it. Look at that, that's how things work. The body's meh, it's super meh. It looks like it was painted with a roller, but I honestly can't really tell. Actually I can, it was painted with a roller. There's a decent amount of Bondo on this car, but it's, you know, it looks like a Duster, but there are clearly some very thick Bondo patches. But overall, really solid, decent looking car. Got a pretty clean vinyl top. Inside, really not terrible. Hard to open sometimes, but it's got a clean dash. It's got some gauges. It's got a little, you know, cool race car switch panel. Missing a few things, glove box, door, some door panels, whatever. But it's got a very cool split bench seat here. It's nice. It's nice leather, actually like in really good shape. This dude folds forward to get to this also very nice leather back seat that also folds forward. I believe it was called a space saver feature or something of the sort. I don't know, somebody let me know that I'm wrong. I'm sure that I am. But I think the whole idea was like, hey, you have a car, but you can treat it like a cargo mover. It's the original SUV. Any hoosers. There's some insulation up here. There's some expanding foam up here. I'm not sure what the guy was doing, but he was definitely doing something. So, I mean, overall, so far, decent little car. Decent little car. Now moving up front for the heart of the episode. Literally, this is a Gen 3 Hemi. Did not come in this car. This car did not come with a Gen 3 Hemi. Anyway, up here is a Gen 3 Hemi. It was installed on Hot Rod Garage. How much of this do I want to get into right now? Not all of it. There are two eras, if you will, an early and a late Gen 3 Hemi. This is a combination of both of those eras, and that might be why it does not run well. I'm not sure that that's the case, but suffice to say, it does not run well. I'll get into that story in a minute. Anyway, my mission for today is to find out what is wrong with it. I need to diagnose this thing and to order some parts for it, presumably. I'm going to start out with a compression test just to see if there's a relative sameness across all the cylinders, and I'm going to let that tell me what it tells me, and then I'm going to move on to maybe a smoke test to check for vacuum leaks or anything. I don't know. I'm not sure really what's going to guide me where, but I'm going to start pulling these coil packs, and I'm going to start pulling some spark plugs, and I'm going to start getting some compression numbers. So this is probably a good time for me to layer over a backstory on what this motor is. Yeah, here's where this motor came from. So I'm going to do my best to keep this a very brief history on this specific motor that's in this Duster. We're going to call it Season 9 of Hot Rod Garage. Tony and Lucky decide to see if they can build a cheap mopar.
On this episode of Hot Rod Garage, we try to build a cheap mopar. More? Almost. Yeah, that's it.
Turns out you can't. But what they did is they got this 73 Duster, they did a bunch of stuff to it, and one of those things being putting a 5.7 Hemi in it, a later model, you know, modern motor. That wasn't air quotes, I don't know why I air quoted it, it's a modern motor. The 5.7 that went in it, I want to say was out of a 2008 truck. Now, in these Gen 3 Hemis, the 5.7 specifically, there are two main versions of it. There's the early and there's the late. One is the original Gen 3 Hemi, was introduced in 2003. It's 5.7 liters. That came with a good head. I want to say it was a 265 CFM kind of flow rate at like 600 lift or something like that. I don't really remember. Neither here nor there, that's a tangent. It had a good head until about 2009, I want to say, when they introduced the Eagle head for the 5.7 Hemis, which blew the original head out of the water. It was more like a 330 CFM flow rate. Now, there are a bunch of other heads and a bunch of other versions. There's 6.1s, there's 6.2s, there's 6.4s, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I don't know about. I'm not going to get into. Whatever, they put the motor in, they do an episode or two, I don't remember, good, great, grand, car works fine. About a year or so later, after the Duster had just been sitting, Tony had since moved on. He is off doing Stay Tuned. Alex is part of the show now. Engine Masters, which is also a show that I worked on, decided they wanted to do a test between the early Gen 3 Hemi, the early 5.7 Gen 3 Hemi. 5.7 is very important designation here, or delineation here. But Engine Masters decides they want to do this test between the early 5.7 and the later 5.7, the non-Eagle head versus the Eagle head. So they make things as apples to apples as they can, and they come up with something around 100 horsepower difference, I want to say. Maybe just under that. I'll fact check myself and, put it here. Either way, it blew it out of the water. The later Eagle heads are clearly much, much better. So back on Hot Rod Garage, we decide we want to try to take our early motor and upgrade it. We've been shamed with our lesser horsepower 5.7, and there is a way to retrofit these later heads onto the earlier motor. They will bolt up directly, but you're going to have an insane compression ratio, and there's some things you need to do to make it workable and drivable. This might be too much detail. I might edit this out. I don't know. The earlier motor with the non-Eagle heads has a domed piston, and that's where it gets its compression ratio from. The later motor with the Eagle heads has a much smaller combustion chamber, which is where it gets its compression ratio from. You put the two together, you're going to have a crazy compression ratio, and depending on your cam, and I don't think it takes very much cam to get to this point, but you're talking about a lot of piston to valve clearance issues. Again, raised dome on the piston and a smaller combustion chamber with closer valves. If you put too much lift in that thing, they're just going to be kissing. So the solution is this. You run a thicker head gasket to separate the two. It drops your compression and it gets the pistons and the valve a little bit farther apart. Also in doing that, you need to remeasure for push rods because their geometry is changing, et cetera, et cetera. So we do this change on Hot Rod Garage. We transfer everything over. We go to the track. We're testing this thing out. Car runs and drives. It is cruising around the parking lot beautifully. No problems. It's not until it makes its first pass down the drag strip that it just starts pinging really, really badly. Comes back in, it's not very happy, kind of just sputtering and missing and blah, blah, blah. Pull it over, pull it in the pits, start doing a little bit of diagnosis and tearing it down, pull the plugs to check on them, and we notice that the gap has been closed on a handful of plugs. A couple of plugs are showing little bits of aluminum shavings. And upon further research, we discovered that the plugs that we put in the Eagle heads were ordered based on the part number for the non-Eagle heads. They are different plugs. The earlier heads have a longer electrode, the later plugs have a shorter electrode, therefore the piston kiss. Also, the plugs on the non-Eagle head have a tapered seat, whereas the Eagle heads have an O-ring seat. We replace the plugs, fire it up, still not happy at all. We've done some damage. So, car gets parked, sits around forever, I buy it. And now I've got to figure out exactly what is wrong with this motor and what happened. So, compression test, smoke test, things of the sort. Whew. I don't think that was brief, but it is the history. So, I got that going for me. Okay, I can tell you with zero certainty that this battery is wrecked, but I can tell you with great certainty that this battery is wrecked. So I've got it on a charger, and it shows 80% or more. There's that whole blinking light display deal. I've got no fuel pump, I've got no nothing. So I do have a little jump box, which might help me right now. Jump boxes always help me right now. Here's the trick with these little no-co boxes. They are great, by the way. I turn them on, and in order to jump a car, can you see? Yeah. In order to jump a car, you gotta hold this until you get a little relay click. And now, it's sending direct power to the battery, which is a good thing. Okay. All right, got a jump box on. It's giving juice. Now, I've got power. fans. Got a fuel pump. I hear a fuel pump struggling, honestly. But we'll check the bowls in a second. That is nothing. Oh wait. There we go. Okay, fuel pump sounds good. Bowls should be full. Let's see. Fuel bowl's doing really high or really low. This right here should be right in the middle. Oh, that's flooded. Let's see. Whew. That battery's toast. Super promising start, super promising. And that box is wrecked. All right, let's see. Yep, that's dead. All right, this thing needs a new battery. It needs a battery. Cutting. Okay, seeing as I can't get the battery to turn the motor over in a way that'll start the car, you're not going to get to see the car start. Seeing as though I don't have enough battery to crank the car over and do a compression test, I'm not going to do a compression test yet. I'm going to switch gears into doing my beloved smoke detector. I'm going to see if there are any intake leaks, if there's any vacuum leaks, if there's anything of the sort that might prevent this thing from just honestly starting and idling reasonably fine. Believe me when I tell you, when I start it, it will pretend to be alive for a second and then just dump down and die. We're gonna start with the vacuum. So I need to tape up this choke tower and basically the carb inlet area because that will, I mean, it's open access to the manifold. It's not wide open, but there's definitely path for smoke to travel. I'm gonna do vacuum system / intake first, and then I'm gonna go into oil and see if I can, find any leaks there. So, let's see. What do I need? I need tape. I can almost guarantee you this is going to leak, but it's not going to leak as badly. So I'm going to plug into a full manifold vacuum port. Well, here's one. And also, here's a very cracked vacuum plug. Actually, I found a different one then. I want to see if that one's leaking. I assume that it is. I want to see a cracked manifold vacuum plug. Where's the camera? Who's got a camera? What the hell? 1, 2, 3. You. This back here is potential offender number 1. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's cracked through, but it's probably still going to leak. So let's figure out how to make that better. I still need a source port. All right, I'm gonna explain a thought process real quick. I want to plug smoke into this thing, see where it leaks out. Great so far. Let me tape up this carburetor. Cool, presumably a decent seal. I don't know. I need to find a place to plug this into. I want to see if that broken full manifold vacuum port vacuum cap is actually leaking or not, for science sake, right? I'm gonna go find a small vacuum hose so I can plug it into one of these ported ports and pump it through there. Can't find any hose. I'm sure there's some hose somewhere on the car that I can just rob and use it temporarily. And there is, good news. Now I have this sort of like discouraged demeanor right now because, well, basically I feel like I'm wasting time. I don't look closely enough before I jump into stuff. I blame cameras. Maybe I shouldn't. Anyway, there is a vacuum hose. It's this one, right here. The one that's going from the intake runner and probably should be going to the PCV valve. It's a large diameter hose. It will definitely accept my port here and I can still do a smoke test, but I'm pretty sure that's the problem. So like easy, problem solved, I hope. I'm gonna run the smoke machine anyway, just to see if anything else is a giant vacuum leak on this car right now. But I'm gonna plug that back into the PCV valve, and then hopefully if I can get enough charge on this other battery that I brought down, we'll give it a fire up and see if and what happens. So smoke, I need juice. Okay, as we all know, smoke juice goes into smoke machine. Okay, so I got juice, I also need power, the power juice. And we're gonna see/hope, if you remember my Jimmy Rig smoke system here, let's see if that dead battery that GoPro's sitting on and you can't see right now has enough juice to power the smoke machine. And it most certainly does not. But I'll bet this one does. No. Well, that's a problem. Nuisance, come on. Hello. Got a new segment. It's called Smart People Solving Dumb Problems. Hello. Got a new segment. It's called Poorly Lit. Hello. When your smoke machine doesn't seem to turn on, make sure that when you connect your jumper cables to your broken alligator clip, seems right? But if there's no power leading to that clip, you gotta flip it, make contact. And then, magically, you have power. All right, now let's get smoky. Hey look, weird. How weird that it does that now. Yeah. Okay. Now let's see what smokes. Okay, well, the top, definitely, duh. Little vacuum cap, that full manifold vacuum cap actually seems okay. Couldn't replace it anyway, though. Okay. Okay, that all seems good. This here appears to be leaking, but it doesn't actually matter because that's not past the throttle blades. That's not metered air yet. Okay, vacuum looks good. Also, intake manifold seems intake manifold seems clear. Okay, everything looks pretty good, actually. It seems like that giant gaping vacuum leak on that PCV hose was the vacuum leak, so that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and replace the vacuum cap on that full manifold vacuum port on the car, but everything else seems sealed and tight, so I get the feeling that if I plug the vacuum hose back in, this thing will start up just fine. We may not know that because I don't have a battery. Oh, that's oily. Gross. Send that back there. Send that through the motor. That'll be fine. All right, so while whatever's happening over here is happening really loudly, and while whatever's happening in here is happening, I don't know, pretty quietly. This car's running, it's charging a battery. This is gonna happen, and then I'm gonna tell you everything I know about the Gen 3 Hemi. It's not a whole bunch. It'll be fine. Okay, everything I know about the Gen 3 Hemi, I've kind of already said. But here are the other things that I do know that I haven't said already. They're awesome motors. They didn't receive aftermarket support for a very long time, but that has changed. Holly, comp, ISKI, any headers you need, intakes, etc., etc. The aftermarket support to swap these into older cars is there. They are just as plentiful as LSs are. They make every bit of power that LSs do. I think, I could be wrong on this, but I think they're slightly more expensive in terms of parts and things, but I don't know why I say that. I'm sure it's not true. There are tons of variations in terms of which engine came in what car. There are, like I said, there's the early 5.7 and later 5.7 heads. There's also 6.1 heads. There's also a 6.2 motor. There's also a 6.4 motor. There's also 6.4 Apache heads, which don't fit on earlier stuff. There's a lot less universal interchange, or it's a lot less of a universal interchange like you would find in an LS or a small block Chevy platform. But they are abundant. They are everywhere in junkyards. They are affordable, and they make great power. Many of them came from the factory with forged bottom ends. Anything that was a Hellcat or a Red Eye, or I think even the 392s were forged bottom ends. They can handle boost. They can handle quite a bit of boost. The BGE is a style. I don't know what that motor came in, but it is a higher nickel content block, and those are sort of the preferred stock Gen 3 Hemis or stock blocks for boost. BGE, big gas engine. Dodge has cool names for stuff. What else do I know about that Gen 3 Hemi? I don't know. 2 plugs per cylinder, which is expensive and annoying, but also the plugs are on top, which makes it easy to get to. They're wide. They're wide motors. They're not quite as compact as an LS. I don't know. Go look it up. Let me know. What did I miss? What did I get wrong? I'm sure there was plenty. Let's go see if we can start this car. That's going to be the big question. Foreshadowing, I have trouble. Okay, quick little reset. Where are we at? We have a battery in. The battery is good and charged. It does stuff like this. It turns on fans. It turns starters. It's great. I'm going to save that battery. All right, I've got that PCV vacuum hose hooked back up. That is going to actually get us started, I think. But I do want to pull it to show you guys what it was doing without it connected and see why I was so fraught with anxiety over this car. I'm going to hook it back up though, and I want to get a memory of what this car actually ran like when it went down at HRG. There's going to be a bunch of blow-by out of the breather. I'm pretty confident of that. I remember that from the episode. But I want to sort of get it running and see what it's like now versus what I remember. I'm going to do a compression test to see what the sort of comparative compression abilities are in the cylinders, and probably drop a dab of oil down any of the light cylinders or sort of the low compression cylinders to see if it is rings that are causing the problem or if it is valves that are causing a compression problem. That's if we have a compression problem at all, which I suspect. So first thing, I'm going to unplug that vacuum hose, start it up as it started before, and yeah, then I'll plug it in and run it how it's supposed to be running. We'll see what it looks like. That's wrong. That's how it was. Fans. Fuel pump. A couple of presses. Okay, so that runs like absolute booty, and I believe that's how it was running when I tried to pull it out of the MotorTrend warehouse. I couldn't even drive it because it ran like that. I am blaming that on the vacuum hose, the gigantic vacuum hose that was unhooked. I'm gonna plug that in and see just how correct I was. All right, let's see. Pressure. I've got an idle. Hold on, hold on. Ah. Okay, so here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a motor that seems to be idling okay. I'm seeing a bunch of blow-by coming out of this breather. I'm seeing 0 pounds of fuel pressure, and I'm hearing a nasty tick. I'm gonna see if I can isolate that. I know that part of it is coming from this tensioner here. Okay, that's a lot of that tick, but that's not gonna be my big idle problem here. Let's see. What's going on inside? I got 20 pounds of oil pressure. Well, doesn't like a rev, I'll tell you that. All right, so horribly enough, that's actually an improvement. So yeah, up next, compression test. Let's see what this thing's got. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, so one of the nuisance things about Gen 3 Hemis, as great of motors as they are, one of my least favorite things is that there's 2 plugs per cylinder. Makes it a change to pain plugs. Makes it a pain to change plugs, and also makes it twice as expensive to change plugs. Redeeming value of Hemi spark plugs, they're on the top. That makes it a little bit easier. So pick your battles, dollars or time. Right now we are not going to change spark plugs, but we're going to pull 1 out of each cylinder to make 1, cranking it over a little bit easier, no compression in any cylinder, so that as I'm reading each of them, spins a little more freely. 2, I'm not going to pull both plugs out of each cylinder because I need to maintain compression. So that's just science. So I'm going to pull some coil packs. I'm going to pull a plug on each cylinder. I'm going to read compression across all 8 of them. 10 millimeter to start. This one stays put because it's going to be a pain. If all the rest of them check out within that 10% margin, I will pull this one, but something tells me a lot more of these are going to show problems before I ever need to deal with moving this master cylinder. So you stay put. All right, if ever you can't reach a spark plug, a little bit of fuel hose, or in this case, a power steering line. Might be a little bit big, but there we go. All right, that's not. It's a little fouled. A little dark for my liking, but it does have gap, which was a problem in the last episode of HRG. They were closed, not all of them, but many of them were closed up really tight from a little bit of a piston kissing an electrode. Now I will organize these better. This isn't so bad. That's actually a nice looking plug. Comparison. Fouled and gross. Not too shabby. Maybe a hair burnt in places, but cleanish. I will organize these better in a moment. Yeah, not terrible. A little brown. A little oily, smelly. No? Fine. This one smells a bit like oil. That's number, I don't know how Mopar numbers or cylinders, but 3 back, driver's side. My gun go? How to put it? Ah, come on. Hold on, everybody. I'm inside. I'm looking for my stinking driver. Okay, well, that's gone forever, I think. Just put it in a place where it, like, is visible. Doesn't even have to belong there. Just be visible. Oh my God. Everybody look. Look what I found. What a dunce cap. How do I do that? Okay. To fulfill my promise of better organization. Okay. There we go. F R D P. Where'd I put that hose? Ah, nuisance. Got it. Everything's fine. Everything's okay. Not bad. A little dark, but not bad. Actually, pretty good. Okay. Dark. Okay, front cylinders. Both front cylinders are pretty dark. You see that all right? A little chalky. I mean, it's sooty. A little bit oily, but it's a dry oil. All right, stand by. I'm gonna cut things, go get a compression tester. Okay, I'm assuming most of you do know, but for those of you who don't know, this is a compression tester. What it does is test compression. Thank you, that is all. I got this from Harbor Freight a whole bunch of years ago. It was probably cheap, but it works really well. This is an end that goes into your spark plug hole. Remove a plug and stick this in place. You then attach this lead via an air fitting to a gauge. You're going to turn the key or press your button or whatever you've got. Spin the motor about 3 or 4 times to build up enough pressure that this needle becomes somewhat stable. Call it 3 or 4 revolutions. Mark down that reading for every cylinder. Press this button in between cylinders, and you're going to compare those numbers. You want them to be within about 10% of one another for a regular healthy motor. If something is way down below that 10% range, or even a little bit down below that 10% range, you've got some sort of sealing issue. That's what this is meant to diagnose, is your compression staying compressed where it needs to be in that cylinder. You've got a few possibilities if it is down low below that 10% margin. You're looking potentially at a ring seal issue, which I think is what I'm facing here. You're looking at potentially a valve seal issue, which should not be the case because these are brand new heads. You could potentially have a crack in a cylinder wall, a crack in a head, crack in a water jacket, some sort of crack that is allowing compressed pressure to escape from where it's supposed to be. So I'm gonna go plug this thing in. I'm gonna run it across 7 of my cylinders because the 8th is very hard to get to and I don't feel like dealing with it. So if for some reason all the other cylinders spec out to be really closely within range, I will pull a master cylinder, pull that last coil pack, pull a plug, run this test. But I get the feeling I'm gonna find errors well before I have to get to number 8. I hope I don't, but I probably will. So it goes. All right, so before I install my little pressure tester lead here, I do want to put just a little bit of oil on the O-ring so it makes a good seal. Then I want to wipe my hand. Then I want to put it in, thread it, Seats. Hooray. Now who can see what? You see? How can you see? How's that for you? That's pretty good. Great. $155. 155. Honestly, that feels like a pretty strong number. Let's see what the others do. Oh, that seems very low. That looks like a 70. All right. 70. Super suck. Actually, I want to make sure that that second plug in that cylinder is actually in there nicely. Yeah, that feels good. Yeah, now I pulled this other plug because in that last episode of HRG, when we were at the track, we realized that we had the wrong style of plugs in this motor. So just in case one didn't get swapped out and it had a bad sealing at this washer. Oh, nice one. Wanted to make sure we didn't have an old plug in there still. So that is good. That's going to go back in, but that cylinder is definitely low on compression. I get the feeling it's not going to be the only one. $180. All right, big winner at 180. Let's see. 180. But even the 180 to 155, that's not within 10%. So, I mean, there's something right there. What is that? That's a 25 difference. 25 and a percentage of 180 is, I don't know, 12-ish maybe? Something. All right, let's see the other side. $205. Okay. $155. Ooh, no way. 40 pounds? That's a bad one. It's a sad, sad bad one. Let's try this again. Actually, let me double check that everything else is sealed in here because that's very low. Yeah, it feels pretty good. Yep, that is the proper plug. Sealing. But what was that number? 40 pounds? That's a bad cylinder. Something wrong in there. Okay. $40. Jeebus. Let's call that 195. I like 195. Okay. Here's what we're looking at. None of these are like really within a good range. We go from 205 to 40, which is like nothing. Let's see, what's 10% of 205? Let's just call that 20 pounds. Anything less than 20 pounds off of 205 is below that 10% margin. So anything under 185, which means that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 7 tested cylinders are well below that 10% margin. One of them's like really close. It's at 180. 185 is the cutoff. So that's bad. That's bad. I don't know how Mopars number their cylinders, so I'm just gonna say 2 back driver side and 3 back passenger are 70 and 40 pounds respectively. Each of those are gonna get a couple of drops of oil, and we'll see if and how they get any better. Sure, let's call it that. Okay, close enough. Oh, we're still talking 40 pounds. That's nothing. Okay, let's mark that though, 40-40. All right, so here's, I don't know, that's weird that it didn't go up at all, which honestly makes me think that it may not be a ring issue. That might be a valve concern, but let's see how this number, whatever this is, checks out. Who wants to watch this one? Up to 90, which is up from 70. I don't know, man. 90 up from 70. Okay, 90 up from 70 is like a substantial jump. It's like a real percentage. I would say 25%-ish. I would say that. I don't know if that's correct, but I would say it. It's a question of, is it a ring or is it a valve seal issue? If the pistons kissed the valves, they might be a little bit bent and it's escaping out. That really wouldn't explain blow-by though. Blow-by is cylinder pressure going into the crankcase and pushing oily air basically out of this breather here, which does indicate rings. Okay, this is what I want to call the hive mind. That's you guys. Like I said, this car was driving around the parking lot, warming up just fine on that last Hot Rod Garage shoot. It wasn't until it went down the track and was under sustained RPM that it started pinging and detonating and hurting itself. So low RPM, low load, perfectly fine. Higher RPM, problem. Now, part of me goes, oh, is it VVT? Is there a change in the cam position throughout that RPM range that's causing things to crash into one another? It's an early motor. The early motors did not have VVT. VVT wasn't available in 2009 on these motors when those Eagle heads came into play, so it's not that. Okay, my fears and suspicions are thusly. Either one, rings are bad. I don't know how rings would have gone bad just in between the driving around the parking lot and doing just fine, no blow-by, no smoke, no nothing, and going down the track under RPM. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. Other option is this. Piston kisses a valve under that RPM and bends a little valve. We're not getting the seal to valve seat, and that's where compression is going. Possible, less of a pain to do than re-ringing, but also probably a ruined set of perfectly good new heads. Not the end of the world. Option 3, which I fear might be much more likely, is that during that contact of the piston traveling upward and poking that wrong length spark plug and leaving little bits of aluminum shavings on said spark plug, I fear that those shavings might be piston top, which might also mean that either there's a cracked piston or we poked a hole in a piston or something of the sort. I don't know, that's the only thing that really explains the lack of increased pressure when I put the oil in the cylinder. It's the only thing that really explains the amount of blow-by that's going through. If it's bad rings, you're gonna get blow-by, but it's not going to well, I don't know. I guess I could let enough through to blow the vacuum hose off of the intake manifold. I guess I could have leaned it out a bunch, and that was the pinging. I don't know. Tell me your thoughts. I'm tired of bench racing this by myself. Anyway, I think there's going to be a hole in a piston or a cracked piston, so I'm going to stick a Boroscope down there and see what I can find. Now, I don't know if I have one here, but I hope that I do. If I don't, this episode is over. Thank you for coming. I will let you know what happens next time. Get out there, work on your own stuff. Happy Saturday, and see you next time. Okay, here we are, back again. This time, I dropped my keys. And this time, I am Boroscope in hand. I just couldn't leave well enough alone. It was bugging me, so we're gonna figure out what's going on here. I just don't want to take it all apart because then it's completely immobile, and that's less good. So I figure if I don't have to pull the heads off and I can still drive it to and fro, fore and aft, Boroscope will help me do that. That's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I don't remember which ones it was. Hold on, let me see. It was 2 back driver, 3 back passenger. Let's see what those two look like. Now, I still haven't figured out how these motors' cylinders are numbered, but 3 back passenger and 2 back driver. Gonna get scoped. Okay, we're gonna start over here on 2 back driver, whatever number that is. I'm gonna set this guy up so you can see my screen. Actually, does this have an SD card? Because that'd be sick. It does not. All right, this does not record, but it does display, so. If you guys saw my super duper cool tool special, you'll recognize Boroscope. But if you haven't seen it yet, well, 1, you should go watch all of my stuff. 2, it's a camera on a stick, and cameras on sticks rule. Spark plug hole. That's a piston top. Yeah, a little dinged. A little chewed. Oh, look at that. That's a cracked piston land, or a ring land. Okay, I think I found a broken ring land. Basically, the top of the piston is kind of popped off now. That'll let a lot of pressure by. Let's see if I can find this thing again. Oops. But I'm gonna block the light over here so you guys can see. Down here, I'm trying to get the best angle I can on it. Oh, that's pretty good actually. That right there. Golly, it's so hard to get like a stable shot on it. Okay, if you look at the top of the frame there, I'm gonna try to hold it as best I can. I don't know how much of the circumference of this piston is broken, but it's broken and it's severely broken. If you look at the top of that frame, you can see where a chunk has just come off. Definitely letting some compression by, and probably not great to continue running in any way. So I know this motor's gonna have to come apart if I want to continue to use this style of motor, wink. I'm just gonna check the other side just to see. But yeah, this thing's dead. It's dead. Duct tape? I don't know, maybe. Maybe a minivan for duct tape. Let's see. All right, this was the 40-pound cylinder, which is by far the worst. Okay, that's a piston top. Okay, see some scoring. Not the good kind. Yeah, I can't really see a whole bunch. Oh yeah, it could be all the oil on the camera that's making it hard to see. Oh yeah, that helped a lot. Okay, can you see that? All right, so with a clean lens, a cleaner lens, that is not good looking. I can't see all the way around it, but you can see some chipping, some chunking on the corners. You can see a lot of scratching just throughout the entirety of the piston top. Like that is brutalized. Something has definitely come apart in there and smashed the piston top. You can see the indentations and scratches and gouges and all that. So this bottom end, without question, has to come apart. It definitely needs rings. It needs new rings on new pistons and potentially even new heads, depending on how much got bounced around inside that combustion chamber. So the way I see it is this. I have 3 options for this car and for this motor. Take that back, I have 4 options. 1, get rid of it. Dulcich wants it, maybe he takes it. 2, I probably just replace the entire motor with a junkyard eagle-headed 5.7. If these heads are good, I can put those on, get a fresh set of heads on a junkyard motor, throw this intake, throw this carb on it, run the controller, run everything, just do a direct plug and play swap there. That's an option. Easier, probably cheapest. Option 3, pull this out, pull the bottom end apart, re-piston it, re-ring it. Probably have to get the bores cleaned up because those piston tops are pretty nasty. Probably not going to do that. That seems unnecessary for something that is so commonplace to go and replace. Option 4 is pull this motor out entirely, throw in the big block that is currently in my C10, and call it a Chevy party. Why not? I don't have the time. I think that is why not. So those are really my only options if I want to get this thing to duct tape drags. It is not going as is unless I really want to blow it up on the drive. Yeah, those are my options to take this to duct tape drags. Now I also have other things I can take to duct tape drags. I have a minivan. I think my chick might come. I think my dad might come. My brother might come. Minivan starts making a lot of sense at that point. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I guarantee when I do, you'll see it here. Jeez. So I don't know. Yeah, solutions abound somewhere. I will let you know what I figure out when I figure it out. In the meantime, though, this is going to sit indefinitely. All I know for right now is that this motor is over, much like this episode. So I will say this. Happy Saturday. Thank you for coming. Thank you for liking and subscribing and sharing and all of those things. Get out there, work on your own junk, and I will see you next Saturday. What are we going to do? I don't know. Oh, but there's going to be a new dog in town. We've got another foster temporary situation. So get ready for, what's her name? Allie? I don't know. What's that dog's name? I think its name is Allie or Freddie or Chrysanthropus or Taco Tuesday. I don't remember. But she's cute. Stay tuned. All right. I gotta go. Sure do. I gotta go. Ugh.